This is just sort of how the markets have been this year. It's been a little bit tough in terms of the way the markets have moved. They just haven't had that follow through, and you know, this is a result of it. But again. Hey guys, this is Mike from the James 16 group again here with another pending trade I have on the New Zealand USD daily chart here. So what's interesting about this trade is that we're going to utilize a historical pattern spotted by Autochartist and still use it now. So what I previously had spoken about in a video was a great tool that comes with the MetaTrader plugin. And again, you can find these patterns also on the web app too as historical patterns, is within the settings tab here. So if we click that, you're going to see this quantity of historical patterns to show. So I really recommend not only using this to backtest, right? As we previously said, you know, go ahead and put up 5, 10, 15 historical patterns. Look at how price reacted. You know, watch what price did, backtest it, try to see if you can come up with a game plan for patterns you saw as important, and then apply that going forward in your testing. But it's also important to realize that just because something's a historical pattern doesn't mean that it's lost all relevancy to the marketplace, right? The market has a memory. Think of it that way. So support and resistance areas specifically carry weight going forward. Now, everything is not created equal. So some resistance, some support will be more important than other support and resistance. So what I've done here is I've just showed a couple patterns here. And the reason is that we have this resistance pattern here that was previously marked by Autochartist. So you can see that historical patterns are marked in gray. So here's our resistance pattern spotted by Autochartist, and you can even see a wedge pattern that was previously spotted by Autochartist here. Now, this one did exactly what Autochartist said it would do, right? It spotted it back here on the 14th of March, which was right here, and it said price will likely drive towards this area, which it did. There was even a bullish outside bar here that signaled that move to that resistance area. And what happened? Price bounced off that resistance. Well, what I'm liking about this area, though, is look how clear this resistance is, right? We have beautiful resistance here. So another term that we've spoken about is price pivot zones, right? That's the flip between support and resistance. So if you have resistance, 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 when price breaks above that area, there's a good chance it holds as support. And likewise, if price breaks back below, there's a good chance it holds as resistance. Well, we had exactly that happen here, right? So we have not only 3 resistance points, we really have 4. We have a last little resistance here. Look what price does. It breaks through, closes above, and then what happens? Look at the next bar. Pulls back, holds a support. Next bar even holds a support. Well, now a really interesting has happened, right? We've now actually closed back below that resistance area. Again, here's our resistance point from Autochartist. We've closed back below it. So what I'm looking to do is sell a pullback to this area. Now, if we sort of fine tune this a little bit, which again, I suggest you guys do as you get to understand your charts better, what we can really see is this resistance point is sort of a slight trend line angle here, right? So I've just gone ahead and done that just to make it a little bit more obvious, a little bit easier to understand. So I'll go ahead here and zoom in so you can see that. So here's our resistance of the trend line. Again, one last little touch here. Price breaks out, holds a support, breaks a little bit lower, holds a support, right? Buyers think, okay, this is holding, and then boom, we collapse down and close under here. So now there's a good chance that this holds back as resistance, right? And price holds on that price pivot zone as resistance. So that's what I'm basically looking to do. What I'm doing as well, though, is I'm just looking to see if there's a price action bar here. And if we aggregate the last 4 bars, and aggregate means simply just to sort of blend these 4 bars together, right? So if we take the open from the first bar here, the highest point from all 4 bars, and the close here, again, if we sort of blended all of those together, it would look something like this, which again in the James 16 group is what we call a pin bar, which we've touched on too. So I'm really just selling a retrace of this pin bar to the left eye, which is again another term we use in the group, which we don't need to go over too much here. We'll just look at it as here's that resistance point. I'd just like to see price pull back there, get the best entry possible, and then look to move forward here. So I'm simply using the high of that pin bar to place my stop loss, which allows me to get my position size, which is a money management term. So again, it's very important to understand money management and the risk you're taking per trade and how you're going to, manage that risk. So again, I like to manage my risk, and I'll look to start to move this stop loss down as you've seen me do in previous videos, which this, again, helps me cut my losses if they happen, as well as smooth out my equity curve over time and work from there. So that's a basic entry here. Again, it's based off this resistance point. That price is now closed back below. And I'm just looking to target this flip in here. So again, you can see a cluster of highs here. Look at all this resistance. Price flips to support here, turns back to resistance. And again, you can see the major move began around here. Look at this big bullish bar. So I think there's a good chance price would want to retest here, maybe then push higher, or maybe retrace before, say, pushing lower. So again, hopefully we'll get our order picked up here. And as I've done previously, guys, I will update this video each time, and we'll go from there. All right, guys, so just a small update here. So again, we can see price literally just pretty much dropped yesterday. So we didn't really retrace to our area. So again, you have to sort of make a decision at this point. You know, do you hold on to your trade? Do you look for the second time back to try to catch the move, or do you pull your order and say the move's over? So a lot of times if I don't get my retrace, I'm going to pull my order. But in this case here, this is such a major resistance area, such a major flip zone, that a market really like this wants to test it, right? So because we can keep our risk relatively low within this area, and again, that's actually something I call dynamic risk reward. So I don't think of my risk as fixed or my reward as fixed. I think of it as dynamic to the situation. So although, like I said, I'm going to start with my stop here, we know we're going to be able to sort of reduce it somewhere around here, worst case scenario. So I'm actually going to leave this one. We got a pretty bearish close today. I would not be shocked to see price pull back up, retest this major resistance, and pull back down. So I've actually moved my my take profit just below today's low, or at this point yesterday's low here. But I'm going to leave this trade on. I think all things still point down. I think the market will still want to retest this area, and we should be able to minimize our risk. Okay, guys, so I've just been triggered into this trade now here. So again, we're going to look for this resistance area to hold, just as we spoke about. So we have the previous resistance. And again, you know, we get a pretty tight area to watch here. We want to sort of watch this sort of zone here to cut out. And again, if we get too far above this area, then we'll just, you know, cut it out for a small loss. And if it bounces down, we'll look to pull our stop down as well and reduce our risk and hopefully push down towards our target. All right, guys, so we can see our resistance point holding here. Again, we made it into a price pivot zone, into a false breakout situation, into a pullback of a 4-day pin bar here. So again, what I've done is I just reduce my risk now. I pull it to above the swing high created today. Again, for me, this brings my risk from 3% to 0.5%. You know, again, the majority of the risk is off the table, and I'll look to start to get to break even around here. If we start to break into these lows here, and then let's see if we can push on down to hit my take profit, which again is really going to line up with, you know, again, this is how Autochartist has this new channel here, which we could see a breakout of. I'm going to sort of look again to see, you know, does this area sort of pull us down here? Are we going to bounce off here? So again, I'm sort of looking at it as a combination of those two areas to take profit here going into the end of the week. Okay, guys, so I've gone ahead and gone to break even now as we test these lows. So again, I'm just going to see if we can get a little last push in here, again, in towards that rising trend line here, sort of the last little bullish point here. We can see this flip of support and resistance. Look at all the resistance here, all the support here. So if we can just get one little push into there, it'll be a nice little gain. But again, at this point, I have no risk left on the table. All right, guys, I just want to do a little update here. Nothing has changed. Again, I still have my take profit at the same place. I still have my stop loss at break even. But I wanted to explain what happened today. So again, the day closed now after we pulled up to the resistance area, which was, again, this former resistance as we spoke about. Price came down, but we formed a bearish outside bar today. So this is something that I've spoke about. I did a video on preemptive breakout bars. So if you actually look here, we have this sort of mini condensed rising wedge or channel as well from Autochartist. Again, you can see the gray lines here. So if we actually just extend this line higher, you can see that this bearish outside bar is pushing right up against that area. So this would qualify as a preemptive breakout bar. So this helps me maintain this trade as well. So instead of, say, just closing out here, it's the end of the day, I'd rather say, okay, this channel looks like it wants to break. Our first trouble area here is this big bullish bar, this touch of the trend line, this price pivot zone that we spoke about. So it really helps me maintain the trade too. So again, you have to sort of piece together this information sometimes. And again, the more information you're able to get, that you don't have to go searching for, that, you know, again, Autochartist allows us to have right on our chart with these historical patterns as well is critical too. So again, we're not always going to be looking at just future patterns or future breakouts, but we're also able to utilize these important areas historically when piecing together trades too. So let's see if we can get a little follow through here as we start to break down. If we start to break down underneath this bearish outside bar, again, hopefully we'll just go right to my take profit. Otherwise, again, I'll start to look to take profit manually or even lock in some profit above the high that we put in for the day. All right, guys, just a small update here. So not a whole lot going on here. Again, we just started to retrace the bearish outside bar here. And that happens. These outside bars love to retrace before they break, especially if they retrace before retesting that low here. So again, I'm fine with what's going on here. You know, this is the markets, especially now that we're very sideways and range bound here. So you know, again, we're at break even, so there's no risk on the table. But hopefully we retest these lows here and get to our take profit. Okay, guys, so just a final update here. So I actually ended up getting stopped out at break even. Again, you know, unfortunately, it just didn't get that final little push here underneath these lows here. You know, everything was set up real nice for it. And, you know, this is just sort of how the markets have been this year. It's been a little bit tough in terms of the way the markets have moved. They just haven't had that follow through. And you know, this is a result of it. But again, break-even trade, which is just as important as your winning trades, is making sure you're cutting your losses, or you know, again, in this case here, making sure we take no loss.